Hi everybody, it's your girl Monique and welcome back to my channel. If you're oldie but goodie, welcome back. If you're just tuning in, welcome. This is the story time, my first story time of 2019, and it's on a serious subject matter. It's going to be cussing, it's going to be some adult language, adult situations. So if you have any small children or you don't want to hear something so traumatic in the beginning of the month or whatever, now is the time to click off this video. But if you want to hear about how I was almost killed, then you could go ahead and keep on watching. So I'm going to get right into it because I know that it's going to take me a moment to clarify and get my thoughts together. You have to forgive me. Even though this was many years ago, it still bothers me to this day because the gentleman, I'm just going to call him Mr. Mr. is out there on this earth, and I'm praying that he hasn't done the same thing that he did to me to someone else. The subject matter is about not only being assaulted, but also him trying to kill me. Now, I know right now on social media, in the news, in real life, in real time, there's a lot that's going on with all these assaults, all of these pedophiles, all of these casting couch stuff going on in the world. But this is not that kind of subject matter because this was about two consensual adults, and it leading to him trying to kill me. Now, when I was in my 20s, I thought I had, the world was my oyster. I was so happy. I had my very first apartment. I was working. I had no children. I had no true, real responsibilities. I love hanging out with my friends. And I was just having a ball. I met him, I think I met him at a club. I met him at a club. And in the beginning, he seemed to be like the nicest guy I ever met. He was so sweet and everything. But in the back of my mind, I always had that nagging little voice. And ladies, let me tell you something. When that little voice, or when that uneasiness that you feel when you're around certain people come around, you need to listen to that inner voice. Even if people think that you're crazy, you need to listen to that inner voice, because that is your body, that is your spirit telling you that this person is not right. Something is wrong with them. And every time I would hang out with him, I always had that little inner voice right here in my ear, like, girl, something ain't right with him. Something, you know, it always was nagging at me. Now, by this being my first apartment, I had so many elders giving me great advice about not having a lot of people in and out of your apartment, not letting everybody know what you got in your apartment, because all of a sudden you got a brand new TV and it disappears. You know, you got too many people in your apartment. And just, you know, just being careful as a single woman dating. You just want to be careful. You don't want to have a whole bunch of men in and out of your apartment. Have respect and pride for yourself. So every time that me and Mr. would meet up, it will always be at the destination that we're going to hang out with. And you know, in the beginning we used to have so much fun, and we would have such a good time. And then every now and then it was like a light just got flicked. Like, he would go from being cool, calm, and collective to 1,000 and acting crazy. Like, why is you looking at him? And this, that, and the third. And I always used to tell him, first off, we're not dating, and this is not a date. This is an outing. And even in my 20s, I always made it perfectly clear I didn't play head games with guys. You know, if you were into playing head games with guys, then that's your thing. But my thing was not playing head games with guys. If I was into you, I let you know. If I wasn't into you, I would let you know. And like I said, that little nagging voice behind me, it always seemed to creep up when he was around. And I let him know from the very forefront, like, listen, I like you and everything, but this is not going to go any further than friendship. And if you're okay with that, then we can hang out. But if you're not okay with that, I understand. And of course, he said he was okay with just being my friend. And I always made it a point that when we were meeting up to go on an outing or whatever like that, I made sure that I dressed like you would meet with your girlfriends. And that meant I didn't dress provocative around him. I tried not to give him mixed signals that this is actually a date. And the first few months that we hung out, I always met him at the destination or met him halfway. And at the time, I wasn't driving, but he was. And then eventually, slowly but surely, I would let him drop me off at my apartment or whatever, but I never let him in. And then I was so proud of myself, guys. I had did all this mad crazy overtime. It was around the time it was a real bad winter storm, and I got stuck at work for like 3 days. And so I had mad overtime, and I used that to keep my cushion, meaning that if you have an apartment, you should always have that 1 month cushion for the just in case stuff. And I had got me my cable. I was so excited. I had this big screen TV. And I think they was about to have, I had got HBO, and they was about to have, I think it was Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3 in concession. And I was so excited. I'm like, oh my God, I get to watch it. And I'm watching it on cable. I'm so excited. And what wound up happening is he gave me a call, and he was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I just got finished, cleaning my apartment. I'm just relaxing. I'm about to watch these movies. And he was like, I'm in the area. How about I go to get some cheesesteaks and come over and we could chill. We could watch the movies. I was like, you know what? That's a good idea. I just had just bought some soda and snacks and stuff like that. You bring the cheesesteaks. I got the snacks. We can watch the movie. I'm okay with that. So fast forwarding to like later on in the evening, it was about 11 o'clock, and I glanced at the time. I was like, you know what? I need to take my tail to bed because I was on public transportation, and if you ever caught public transportation, sometimes it takes hours to get to your destinations, especially if you have to catch more than one bus. And at that particular time, I actually had to catch 3 buses, so it would take me 2.5 hours. So I was like, you know what? I need to go to bed. And he hinted that if he spent the night, that I wouldn't have to get up so early, because he did drop me off from work one time, and it only took like 15 minutes as opposed to 2.5 hours on public transportation. But that little nagging voice that was right here was like, girl, don't do it. It is not a good idea. So I listened to my voice, and I was like, you know what? I appreciate the offer, but I think I'll just go ahead and catch the bus. I did not want to catch the bus, but that nagging voice was telling me, girl, just go ahead and catch that bus. And he was like, okay. So I went into the kitchen, and I'm wrapping up his cheesesteak, and, asking him, do you want the bag of chips? Do you want the soda or whatever? And I hear him mumbling in the other room, and I kept saying, what is he saying? And I was like, what's wrong? And he was like, well, I'm looking for my jacket. And he seemed so exasperated. He was so upset. He was pacing and mumbling. And I was like, what's going on? He was like, I'm looking for my jacket. I'm like, you didn't bring your jacket. Why don't you check the car to see if you have your jacket? Because I don't remember you coming up with your jacket. So he left out, and I continued to wrap the stuff up, and he came back. He was like, yeah, it was in the car. And so he went back in the other room, and I could still hear him mumbling. And I'm like, what is you saying? He was like, yeah, bitches playing games. And I was like, bitches? Is he saying bitches? And so I go in the other room, and I was like, what's the matter? And he was like, yeah, bitches is playing games all the time. And I'm like, bitches? Bitches who? Me? He was like, yeah, bitch, you playing games. You know what the fuck I came here for? And I was like, yeah, you came here to chill while we watch these movies and eat cheesesteaks. What else did you think you came here for? When we ate cheesesteaks, I had 2 couches. I had a couch and I had a chair. And I sat on the chair, I sat on the floor in front of the chair, and he sat on the couch. And I had a sweatshirt on. The same sweatshirt that I used to clean the apartment, it was raggedy. I wore no makeup at the time. I had my hair in a ponytail. So I was not giving him the vibes that this was, this was like like nowadays, it was a Netflix and chill time. I was like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. And you're not going to keep calling me bitches. And he was like, you know why the fuck I came here? You know what the fuck I'm here for? And I was like, you know what? I ain't going to be any more bitches. But here's your stuff and get out my apartment. And I had opened the door. And I hand him his, hand his bag of stuff like this. And out of nowhere, he punches me in the face. And on a side note, the apartment that I lived in, any time of the day when somebody was home and they hear people walking in or up and down the steps, because I lived on the 3rd floor, people would open their door to see who just walked in. And I could tell everybody was home, because when I went downstairs to let him into my apartment, I can hear it was 2 apartments per floor, and I can hear everybody was home. And when I opened my door and handed him his stuff, he swung at me and commenced to physically assault me. Now, when I say physically assault me, I will not dumb it down, or I would not make it seem like, yeah, I was karate him and fighting him back. No, this man was physically beating me up. And I'm not ashamed to say that this man was beating me up. He was beating me up. And I was not able to defend myself as much as I would like to. I'm sorry. I was not able to defend myself as much as I would like to have defended myself. At one point, we fell on the floor, and this mister had decided to put his foot in my breast and continue to try to not only bang my head into the floor, but to swing punch me in the face. And at that particular time, he was right-handed, so the left side of my face was sitting out, because he didn't break my nose, but he busted my nose pretty good. This eye was swollen shut, and I do have a cut on this side of my mouth from the incident. And I have slight hearing loss in my left ear from the incident. And at one point, he began to pull on the collar of my sweatshirt, and he was like, you know what, since you don't want to give it to me, I'm going to take it. And he commenced to punch me in the face. And the one thing I said, and I said this in another video, that sometimes the Lord looks out for fools and children. And trust me, I was screaming for help. And I was begging for him to stop. And I was begging for someone to call the cops. And I was begging for someone to please help me. Please help me. Please help me. And no one came to my aid. No one came to stop this man from hurting me. No one came to stop him from continuously hitting me and kicking me and stomping me and everything that he did to me, up until him saying that since I wouldn't give it to him, he was going to take it. And I swear on my own life, on my child's life, it was like the Lord tapped me on the shoulder and was like, I'm going to give you a little bit of strength, and you're going to do with it what you will. And I don't know how I got this, and this man was way bigger than me. I don't know how I got him off of me, but I was able to get him off of me. I was able to stand up, and I was able to push. I kept pushing him towards my apartment door that was still wide open, trying to get him to leave my apartment so that I could shut the door and lock it. But he kept lunging back at me, and I kept thinking, if I can just get him towards my kitchen where I had my kitchen knives, or if I could just get him to the hallway where I had a cane with a hidden knife in it, or one of them umbrellas or something like that. If I can just get him out of here, I can lock my door and get him away from me, because like I told you, I was still screaming for help. I was still begging for him to stop. I still was begging for someone to help me. And I was getting so tired from the trying to I was trying to defend myself, but trust me, it was not working. I was trying to fight back, but I don't think that my impact was working. And I was losing the battle, guys. I was losing the battle, and I gave it my all. I had pushed him out of the door twice, and this very last time, it was like, this is it. If I do not get him out of this door, this man is going to kill me, because his punches and kicks and stomps was merciless, and I have no doubt in my mind that this man was going to kill me, and no one was coming to help me, and it was just going to be all up to me. Oh, forgive me, I'm getting emotional. And in between my living room and my kitchen was like a small wall, and I had this beautiful ornate mirror that I got from a vintage shop. But honey, when I launched him out the door that one last time, I grabbed that mirror off that wall, and he flew down them steps. Honey, he flew down them steps, and I threw that mirror down the steps after him, and it missed him by inches. And he was like, "You crazy bitch," and da 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 da. And I can hear him running all the way to Russ out the door. And I can also hear the front door shut. And I lock my door. And of course I called the cops, and you know what? I called my mom first. I called my mom first before I even called 911. And then I called the cops, and I made a police report and everything. And let me tell you, ladies, that truly was a learning experience for me. I could have used that experience to keep every man that have ever come across my path since that incident at arm's length. And I could have used that experience to never trust in relationships or man or anything like that. But what I did was I chose to use it as a learning experience. There were warning bells that I should have paid attention to that I just dismissed, thinking that I don't want him to think that I'm crazy. There were warning bells all along when I was dealing with him, and I should have listened to the warning bells. And ladies, when them warning bells is going off, don't be afraid to feel like you crazy. You need to listen to that inner gut, because that's your spirit. I'm telling you, that's your spirit telling you that something is wrong with that man. And the only thing I could call him is Mr., because I don't want to put his name out there. I don't want to give him that power over me any longer. I was able to press charges against him, but he was in the wind. He had changed his number and moved, and, you know, I'm black. And I was young at the time, so it wasn't a major reason to continue to try to find this man that tried to kill me. So they just dropped the charges and let it go. And I did not see or hear, well, that's not true. I did hear from him, and I wind up having to move from that apartment because he began to stalk and harass me. And at the time, I had a answering machine. That's how you know how that I'm old. And I had stayed with my mom for a week or so until I was able to see out of both of my eyes, because, like I said, my eye was swollen shut. I do have a scar on my nose, and like I said, I do have a cut on my lip from that incident. And I stayed with my mom for a while. I informed my job that if that person came past, please don't tell him my whereabouts. I explained to them what had happened because eventually I had to go to work. And honey, the harassment started. He was sending dead roses with mice inside packages, and somehow he was making it through the security door of my apartment building, and I did not feel safe any longer. He was leaving messages on my answering machine, and like I said, I was still on public transportation, and I remember getting off the bus and looking up the street and thinking that I saw his car, and I went into a panic attack. And I had a neighbor that lived in a building next door, and he was nice enough to escort me in my apartment to make sure I was okay. And about time I got in and the doors locked, that answering machine light was blinking, and he was like, I knew you was a whore. All we had was a little argument, a little disagreement, and you already on to the next dick. And that just showed me that this man was not stable. The fact that this assault, this altercation, this man that tried to kill me, like I said, I have no doubt that he was going to kill me. I have no doubt in my mind that that man was going to kill me. And no one was going to be able to stop it until it was done. And I moved from that apartment for so many reasons. Because of my safety, I was angry at everyone that lived there. Even if they didn't want to get involved, if someone would have just called 911, maybe I wouldn't have went through as much trauma as I did. I had a blood clot on my breast. I had multiple bruises on my breast from him having his knees in my breast, but I had a blood clot that had to be drained, and it left a bruise on my breast. I actually had a tattoo made around the bruising to camouflage it, because I didn't feel like my breasts were pretty anymore because of all the bruising that occurred during the incident. So if you are going through something like that, if you are in a relationship, whether it's if you're in a relationship like that, you need to get out. Don't be that statistic. Don't wait until it's too late. You have to be the stronger person and walk away. There are organizations, there are numbers, there are programs that will help you rebuild your life. You do not have to tolerate being in a domestic violence relationship and situation. Trust and believe that was used as a learning tool for me. When them warning signs bling, bling, bling in my head, when I'm around people, I listen. Honey, I listen. And I'm here in front of you almost like a testimony that I am a domestic violence survivor, because the Lord gave me strength to get him up and off of me. And I will say that although I did not see him for many, many years after that incident, when I briefly worked at the Philadelphia airport for a short period of time, I heard somebody call my name from a distance. And when I turned around, it was him. And he spoke to me like we were old friends, that we were the best of acquaintances, that we left on a good note. And my coworker was standing next to me because of course, I've never forgotten about the incident. I never will forget about that incident. And one day, I will talk to my daughter about this incident, even though she is one of my subscribers. Hi, Mama. Um, that man spoke to me like we were the best of friends, and I was so paralyzed with fear. It was like it was happening all over again, that I could not move. I could not talk. And my coworker was looking at me like, "Are you okay? What's going on? Are you all right?" And he was like, "Oh my God, you still look great. Oh my God, you still at the same spot? Oh, listen, my flight's about to leave. It was good seeing you. Maybe I'll see you around sometime." Like, he really was speaking to me like we just was reconnecting, and he was so happy. I was so paralyzed with fear. I was so glad that I never saw him again. I hope that this video gets to someone that needs to hear this. But girlfriend, you are worth more than that. And if that is what's happening to you, girlfriend, get away before it's too late. Don't let materialistic, don't let I don't have a job, don't let I don't have nowhere to go keep you there in that prison. That's no way to live. That is no way to live. And I'm sorry that my first story time of 2019 has to be so serious, but I figure with the way the world is going, sometimes you need to hear that you're not the only one that experienced something like that. If you're inclined, go ahead and hit that like button if you like to hear my story times. I promise I'll try to keep it easy with the content, but I appreciate you watching this and listening to an experience that has changed me forever. It has changed me forever. Forgive me for being emotional a little bit. When I think about, if you're new, you don't know, but my mom passed. And if you're an oldie but goodie, you knew how I felt about my mom. So the fact that I am bloodied up and messed up and can't see out of either eye, nose bleed and mouth busted open, I look like a train wreck, bruised and broken all over the place. The first person I called was my mom instead of 911. That just shows you how much she meant to me. Like I said, if you like hearing videos like this, go ahead and hit that like button. I will never ask you to subscribe until you have watched the end of my video, so you know what you're getting into. But if you want to join my family, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I promise to keep it lighter on my next story time, but I appreciate you going with me through this journey again. On that note, remember, you can always contact me on mo_knows_fashion on Instagram. DM me if you want to chit chat sometimes and talk about life. I'm here for you guys. You're my family. To the next video, guys. Bye.